Welcome to the Fantasy Draft Room. This is our week 4 sits of the week. So you want to tune in and check it out. As always, though, we make things a competition here. We have a fun draft style to this. So, Cody, what happened in week 3 for us?
It is week 3. It's week 2 of us going head to head, and this is the Sits show. So we are trying to get the lowest points possible. I did edge you out in this one, 75.96 points to 88.36. The Tua Tagovailoa led Dolphins and 70 points wasn't enough because they scored 8 of their touchdowns on the ground, unfortunately for you. Even though Tua did ball, it wasn't enough to push me over the edge. The Chris Olave and the Jamar Chase ones were the ones that pretty much hurt you and sealed that fate in week 3.
Went a bit spicy there. I was hoping for, again, the continuation of what we saw out of that Bengals offense, and Chris Olave just kind of figured it wasn't going to be a high volume performance, and I was wrong, and that cost me the L this week. So let's dive into week 4 sits here. You started off picking first last week, so I will get to pick first this week. And so I will be picking inside the top 12 at quarterback and tight end, inside the top 24 at running back and wide receiver. And I'm trying to find clunkers for this week. And so sits of the week here. So my QB one, he had a bounce back performance. We actually seen him use his legs a little bit more, which has been great. But Lamar Jackson's going to be my sit this week. He's going up against a very tough Cleveland Browns defense. I know it's going to be tough to actually sit him if you have him because of that rushing upside, and all he needs is one. And it's going to be very exciting for him for fantasy. But in the end, I do think that this Cleveland team finds a way to keep him in check as far as a fantasy performance for week 4.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because he's my most owned player in Dynasty, or at least my most owned quarterback in Dynasty. So I have a lot of shares. I'm still going to be firing him up, but he was the second name that popped out to me whenever I was looking through these top 12 quarterbacks. It's just a tough matchup. And so, hopefully he gets it on the ground and is able to probably punch it in for a touchdown there. Otherwise, it may look a little bit rough come week 4. But getting into mine, it's going to be a little bit interesting because I don't know if I'm really supposed to make this pick, but he's still in the top 12 right now. I think he's going to play. It's Anthony Richardson for me coming off of the concussion. Maybe he limits the running in his first week back just because that was where he got the concussion in the first place in week 2 and why he had to miss week 3. So I'm going to bet on that one. I will make a backup pick, though. If Anthony Richardson isn't able to go, I'm going to look through the board here and I forget which my backup was. But I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it Russ. I'm going to make it Russ against the Chicago Bears.
Oh, I hate you for that one. All right, so I'm with you on the Anthony Richardson thing. I do think the Rams defense has been better than I think everyone anticipated. This team has been better than everyone anticipated. So, A-Rich coming back. I don't hate it, but again, same kind of concept with Lamar. It's all it takes is one broken off run, one touchdown on the ground. Or if they use him in those goal line formations, A-Rich could easily have a couple touchdowns on the ground, and that's going to hurt. So I don't mind it though. I can definitely see that happening first week back. So let's get into running backs here. So the running backs ones, again, top 24 is really what we're looking at, and the top 24 here. I'm going to go with a very spicy one. I like to choose some spicy picks when we get to these quarterbacks or these running backs and wide receivers. And the guy I'm actually going to pick is probably going to shock you. And I'm going to be taking one, Tony Pollard. He's going to be a tough one to actually sit, but I do feel like this would be a potential clunker performance for him just because New England's defense has played very well against the run. And the way Bill Belichick does do things, tries to stop the best thing in your offense. It's either going to be CeeDee Lamb or Tony Pollard. So he's got to be a focal point for the Patriots. And then I'm just kind of banking on a lesser performance as far as not going to finish in the top 12 this week.
And really, he hasn't looked all that great for most of the games this year so far. He's actually been kind of stifled from what we've assumed could be a top 5 performance or a top 5 finish over the year from Tony Pollard. He just hasn't been as efficient. Obviously, whenever you go into that bell cow role, hard to be as efficient. We've seen the fall off with Pollard without his Ezekiel Elliott hammer there. I did see that one. I didn't think that's where you were going to go on the spicy level, but I'm going to give you my spicy one. And honestly, after the first 3 weeks and what we've seen, I don't know if it actually is anymore, but I don't think I have ever said the words to bench Derrick Henry outside of this time right now, outside of injury. Man, it's just been brutal for Derrick Henry. He had a 38% snap share last week. He's getting outsnapped by Tyjae Spears. He's running for under 4 yards a carry over the last 2 weeks. it just looks bad for everything on this offense. I hope that this is a get right game for them against Cincinnati, but man, it just hasn't looked good over the first 3 weeks. I'll take Derrick Henry. So you're going a little spicy. I'll give you one of my own.
And it's funny because I looked at Derrick Henry, but I was just like, man, I, Cincinnati's run defense hasn't been great. So I'm wondering if this is a get right game for Derrick Henry. But hey, they will load the box. Like, just shut down Derrick Henry, and the rest of that will pretty much pan out, for winning the football game. So I
Should.
don't mind that one at all, especially after an 11 for 20 performance. And like you mentioned, that snap share is definitely a legitimate concern. All right. So my next pick here for the running back position, there are some tough defenses out here, and like there's a couple that I looked at, and I'm like, that seems almost too easy to take. But I am going to go with, and I'm kind of going to ride this one, Joe Mixon against the Tennessee Titans. Joe Mixon hasn't been great this season. He's been average. Like hasn't been anything as far as like, oh yeah, this is a top 8 kind of performer. And he is going to go up against the Tennessee defense that is really good against the run and awful against the pass. So if he can get involved in the passing game, maybe he can save himself his fantasy week. But I do think he's going to be looking at like close to that 10 point per game, or 10 points in this game with no touchdowns on the ground.
It's amazing with how he basically dominates every single snap at this position for this team, but they haven't been all that great scoring points as of late. Joe Burrow's got another week to get back and healthy for his passing game, get T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in the same game back on track. Another one, I think we've had Mixon in 2 straight shows now. Another one that was definitely on my list. I'm going to go down to chalk though here. It is I don't know honestly why he's a top 24 running back. It is only because of matchup. But Alexander Madison, I'm sorry, man, you're just not a good running back in the NFL. You're down there all the way in the bottom. Honestly, 16 is so high for me. I know it's Carolina and everything, but man, you got Akers there as well. We'll see how much that workload looks like for him. Now that I think, is confirmed to be starting up and playing this next week, will be active, but obviously he hasn't looked great either, but they're just a bad running football team, and Madison's not helping it at all either.
For all you Madison truthers out there that thought this was going to be his season and he was going to show out, if you didn't take that chance to trade him for dynasty purposes, or even trade him in your redraft leagues right at the start of the year, you missed your window. Like he's not going to be like, who knows, maybe he is going to get relegated out, but like he's not going to be great. He's not going to be a top 14 back like he was drafted. Like people were super high on him. So yeah, I don't mind this pick at all. Again, you got to find a chalk one and a little bit of a spicy one just to stay competitive here. So I am going to get into the wide receivers, and I do have a couple here that I'm debating on how spicy I want to go. I've been going real hot. Like I had Jamar Chase and Chris Olave this past week. Like that's a tough one to truly like see to fruition. I think Jamar Chase and this Cincinnati offense will torch the torch the Titans. Holy cow. And so I do think that those
Some
guys are
team.
out off my list. I am going to go back to the old reliable, old faithful, and I'm going to take Garrett Wilson right off the rip, just so
Yep.
you don't. I
Yep.
mean, if you're still starting Garrett Wilson, I benched him last week. Like I took him in I believe my second round pick or my 1-2 turn in my redraft league, and yeah, man, I benched him. Absolutely benched him. Had no need for him. He's going up against a very good Kansas City defense. That secondary has been awesome. So yeah, that nothing else to say. And Zach Wilson's throwing the football. There we go. Done deal.
Yep. And if he doesn't have a show about it, unfortunately, but if Garrett Wilson had a sit of the week show, it would be Zach Wilson would be his sit of the week, and he would just ride with Tim Boyle or Trevor Simeon. Unfortunately, he doesn't, and he doesn't have that type of authority over the team. I hope Zach Wilson gets right, though, man. Like, all jokes aside, I hope he does get right. But for this team, it's probably going to look a bunch like the same against a very strong Kansas City defense. So yes, good choice picking him, because I would have fired him up for 3 weeks in a row if you hadn't. So I'm going to go to my first one though, and this one I honestly only have 2 left. If you pick my other one, I'm going to be scrambling for a fourth one because I didn't get it. And I couldn't find one before the show, so we're going to have to go off the lamb
Off the
here.
cuff
But
there.
yeah, off the wing, but off the cuff. But goodness, I hate this one. I do personally hate it. You're going to see him in the back here. It is Mike Evans is going to be my sit of the week. This is the Marshawn Lattimore Bowl. He's not even going to play an entire game. So if he's only playing a half game, he's definitely going to be the sit of the week. If he doesn't score a touchdown in the first half, he probably won't be on the field to score in the second half. So Mike Evans is the sit of the week.
Old Chauncey ain't there to antagonize things. So maybe Mike Evans plays a full game. Mike Williams is not playing a full game. He's not playing for the rest of the season. But yeah, Mike Evans
Whoa,
might be.
don't do that to me.
No, I said Mike Williams isn't playing the rest of
Oh,
the season.
Mike will. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So let's I don't mind it, but Mike Evans has been so freaking good this year. He's been so good. But I get it. You know, it makes sense. Anytime he plays the Saints, it seems like something happens, whether he gets ejected, gets locked down, gets into a fight, all sorts of fun stuff. So all right, man. I wanted to I think I'm gonna get spicy with it. I'm just gonna go back to the well. Chris Olave, throw him up there, man. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is actually pretty good. Like it's not anything like special, but they still have a good enough pieces back there that they can actually lock down a receiver. And they're going up against famous Jameis. So it feels like one of those games that Jameis is gonna throw 4 picks in. Maybe he gets a couple touchdown passes. Maybe Olave, is a recipient of one of those, but I'm going to bank on that not being the case. So I think Winston's going to focus on MT, and Chris Olave is going to have just an average game here.
Just absolutely disrespectful to two of my favorite players in the league. Chris Olave and Jimmy Dubs are going to absolutely smash on Sunday. I don't know what your problem is. I know you hate me. I don't know what your problem is. Jimmy Dubs is a baller, and he's going to throw for 4 touchdowns and win the game.
Why Jimmy Dubs? Like, I want to hash this out on this episode, but like, we don't have time for that. But like, Jimmy,
we got time.
Anyways,
Jameis Winston, that's a dub. He eats dubs. And I don't know how I honestly got to Jimmy, but it just kind of flowed. Once I got to Dubs, he's Jimmy Dubs.
Jeez
Just
Louise.
got to deal with it, man. It's unfortunate for you, I guess, but you're never going to escape it with me on this show as your co-host. So we can move forward, though. Unfortunately, I do have to stop talking about Jimmy Dubs one more time, but we're going to go to a spicy one for me. You picked this offense already, and you picked the running back. I'm going to take the wide receiver. It's CeeDee Lamb for me. I think that this New England Patriots defense actually hones in on him instead. Both of these teams are averaging less than 200 yards passing given up over their first 3 weeks. And so I'm going to lean into that. It's going to be a ground and pound game, low scoring, and CeeDee Lamb is going to be taken down and hampered a little bit.
Yeah, I goes back to exactly what I said with Pollard, right? Like they're going to key in on Lamb or Pollard or both. Like that's going to be the focus. They're going to shut one of them down. So one of us is going to be right in this for sure. Maybe we're both right, but one of us for sure will be right, and that will probably determine who's the winner this week. So that Dallas Cowboys matchup is now a big game for us to keep an eye on. All right, let's wrap things out of here with tight end. So top 12 tight end that we think is going to lay an egg, and I'm just gonna go with the low hanging fruit here. Like, and if you don't know who it is, based on looking at this top 12 list, it's Kyle Pitts.
That guy right there.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
I'm glad you went over that because man, he's going up against Jacksonville. Not only that, but it's the international game, so they're actually traveling to. Is it London this year? I always forget. I think they're the Jags.
We've got multiple because we've got the one in Germany too, but this one is a London game.
This one's a London game. That's right. We have London, Germany, and then we always have like the Mexico City one or from time to time. So yeah, so this one here feels like it's going to be a super low scoring game. They already don't like to throw to Kyle Pitts, and so why not?
Yeah, it's interesting that the tight end 1 on the Atlanta Falcons is actually not listed inside the top 25, but the tight end 2 is listed at number 9 overall because Jonnu Smith is basically the one of this offense. It's unfortunate, though. No, Kyle Pitts, yeah, it makes perfect sense to do it. He was my second one, but there was no chance you were taking my first because this is where I'm going to provide the spice. It's going to come to a screeching halt. It's going to come to a screeching halt. There is way too much. People are going way out over their skis for this player. It's going to come to a stop this week. It is Sam Laporta's time to return back to earth and stop this levitation all the way up to tight end 3 or 4 levels in Dynasty that we're already seeing, and people are going insane. Sam Laporta is going to come back to earth, be a rookie again, interdivisional matchup game between them and the Packers. They always play each other tight. Sam Laporta has his return from the Galaxy Stars area that he's been riding on, even though it hasn't even been all that great. People are still losing their minds over Sam Laporta. I say it comes to an end week 4.
I mean, Thursday night football, short week, interdivision game on the road.
Oh, no, it is Thursday night football. I can't pick him. Dang it. No, we're not doing it. This
Oh,
comes out on
that's right. You're not going to
this
take
comes
Thursday
out
night
on Friday. Unfortunately, guys, I'm dumb. So we're gonna have to go a little bit
Plan
off the
B.
rails here and go with
But
another
if you
one.
could pick Laporta, I don't mind that one. Again, it's that mid, you know, interdivision game. You have it on the road in Green Bay. That defense like is going to try and lock down Laporta and Amon-Ra. And that's really what they're going to try and do on offense. So, yeah,
Yep.
man. And I
You'll
see
know
who
by the
you
time you're
grabbed.
seeing this if we're right or not. And so, unfortunately, I can't go with that one. I will go with Dallas Goddard, though. So that'll be my sit of the week for the Sunday and forward games.
Those were my two. Those were my two right there. I looked at Goddard again, and he did get 7 targets this past game, but in the end, what's he done? You
Devonta
just
Smith got phased out of the last game. He needs to get put back into this game. So now it's going to be an AJ Brown and Devonta Smith game.
Yep. That sounds about right. So yeah, we'll tune in next week to find out how we did. Again, we're going to keep tracking everything throughout the season, so you can see what our records are. Cody is actually 2-0 in the sits. I am 2-0 in the starts. So take that for what it's worth. We'll see how week 4 goes for us. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Let us know how crazy we are, if we're missing something here. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us here in the Fantasy Draft Room.